Okay, good afternoon to everybody. Welcome to weekly Colloquium. Our speaker today is Huseyin Topaloglu of RAE, and Huseyin will tell us about his recent work on revenue management under Markov chain choice model.
Thanks, Kenna. So I'm going to talk about various types of revenue management problems when customers are choosing according to this Markov chain choice model. And all these problems that I'll be looking at today have some sort of an assortment optimization problem variety to it. So let me try to describe what an assortment optimization problem is first. So let's say a firm has access to a set of products, and among these products, the firm is going to choose a subset, an assortment offer to its customers. And the customers that come into the store is going to look at the assortment of products that are available, and they're either going to make a purchase within the offered assortment or leave the store without purchasing anything. And the choice of the customer is going to be governed by this Markov chain choice model. And the goal of the firm is to figure out which assortment of products to show to its customers so it maximizes some kind of expected revenue. Okay? And we're going to use a Markov chain choice model to describe how the customers are making their choices. And the Markov chain choice model is going to work as follows. When a customer comes in, he's going to be interested in a particular product with a certain probability. If that product is available, then the customer is going to purchase that product and is going to leave. And if that product is not available, then the customer is going to transition to another product or to the no purchase option according to certain transition probabilities. And if the customer transitions into another product, he's going to look at the availability of the other product. So in this way, the customer is going to keep on transitioning between the products and the no purchase option until she hits an available product or the no purchase option. If she hits an available product, she's going to purchase that one and leave. If she hits the no purchase option, she's going to depart without making a purchase. Okay? So we're going to look at again a couple of revenue management problems when we use this Markov chain choice model to describe how the customers are making their choices. We're going to look at the tractability of these problems, and we're going to look at the structure of the arising policies. And everything that I'll be talking about today is joint work with Jake Feldman and Serdar Şimşek. Serdar is sitting over here. Jake, where are you? I saw Jake is sitting all the way in the back. Anything related to optimization that I'll be talking about is Jake's work. Anything related to estimating the parameters of the Markov chain choice model that I'll be talking about, it's going to be Serdar's work. Okay, so here's what I'm going to talk about. First, I'm going to talk about assortment optimization problems under the Markov chain choice model. In the assortment optimization setting, again, the firm has some products. Among them, it chooses a certain subset and shows it to its customers. Customers choose among the products according to the Markov chain choice model. The firm wants to maximize the expected revenue obtained from each customer. That is the assortment problem. After that, we're going to talk about network revenue management problems, again under the Markov chain choice model. In the network revenue management setting, we have an airline that's selling tickets for different itineraries that go from different origins to different destinations through different connecting flight legs. And over time, the airline is trying to figure out which set of itineraries to make available to its customers and which set of itineraries to close. And the goal of the airline, again, is to figure out what itineraries to make available over time to maximize the total expected revenue from its sales until the departure time of these flight legs. And now we're going to talk about revenue management problems over a single flight leg, and again, when customers choose under the Markov chain choice model. In the single leg setting, an airline is operating a single flight leg between a particular origin and destination pair. Let's say, JetBlue flies from New York to Boston or something like that. And there are different fare classes on this flight, and the airline is trying to figure out over time which set of fare classes to make available to its customers. Okay? And finally, at the end, we're going to think about how we can estimate the parameters of this Markov chain choice model from customer choice data. So I'm going to start with assortment optimization. So here's the assortment optimization setting. So the firm has a whole bunch of products. Each one of these boxes is a product. And there's also the no purchase option. So the red box in the end is the no purchase option. Once the firm decides which of these products to make available, the customers are going to make a choice among these products and the no purchase option according to the Markov chain choice model. And the goal of the firm is to figure out which of those products to make available to make the largest expected revenue from a customer. That's the problem. Okay? And we're going to use this Markov chain choice model to describe how the customers are choosing among the products. Let me describe that Markov chain choice model to you. So let's say there are n products. And once we decide which of these products are available, here's how the customer choice process is going to work. With probability lambda I, a customer coming into the system is going to be interested in product I. If that product is available, then the customer purchases it and leaves. Okay? If, as in this picture, if that product is not available, then the customer is going to transition to another product or to the no purchase option. So let's say with probability rho ij, the customer transitions from product I to product j, then considers purchasing this product. If this product is available, he purchased and gone. Otherwise, from that product, he's going to transition to another product or the no purchase option. Let's say from product J, he transitions into product K. Product K is available. He's going to purchase that product, and that's going to be the end of the choice process. Okay? This is the choice process that we're going to use to model the customer behavior. So then the parameters of this choice model are these lambdas, the probability that a customer comes in with the intention to purchase a particular product. And these rho ij's, which are the transition probabilities, the probability that a customer transitions from a certain product to another one when that certain product is not available. So that's the parameters of my model. Okay? And of course, if a customer is considering product J and product J is not available, this is going to be the total probability that a customer transitions to another product. With 1 minus that probability, the customer is going to transition to the no purchase option, then it's going to leave the system without purchasing anything. And n is going to be the set of products. Okay, n is going to be the set of all products, 1 to n.
So are you allowing the customer to go back to a product?
Yes, so this Markov chain allows that he can go back. And we're not claiming that's exactly how customers think, as long as we can calibrate this choice model to reflect what has been purchased in the past in a probabilistic fashion, that's all I'm after. So I'm not claiming that this is how people think. Yeah, yes?
Can you provide maybe some intuition in what type of products or markets does this happen? That there's
Again, I'm not claiming that this is happening and this is how customers behave. All I want is to calibrate rows and lambdas so it captures the probabilistic behavior of what is being purchased when you show some assortment to your customer.
I'm just curious about why the price doesn't play a role in choosing.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So prices could indirectly play a role in the sense that you could create multiple copies of the same product corresponding to different prices, and you can treat each one of those copies as a different product. Yeah.
So the availability of the products themselves can change over time as the customer is hopping around?
For the assortment problem, no, it's not. You just show one product, and that's how and customers are going to purchase according to that. Okay? Yeah. All right. Good. So this is the choice process that we're going to use. So then the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start thinking about, if I show a certain set of products, what is the probability that a customer is going to purchase a product among that set? Okay? So we're going to write some probabilities for that. In particular, I'm going to define two probabilities, PJ of S's and RJ of S's. PJS is the following. PJS is, given that we offer the subset S of products, PJS is the probability that a customer considers purchasing product J during the course of her choice process and actually purchases it. Okay? PJS is the probability that a customer considers purchasing product J and actually purchases it during the course of her choice process, given that we offer the subset S of products. On the other hand, RJS is, given that we offer the subset S of products, RJS is the probability that a customer considers purchasing product J, again during the course of her choice process, but does not purchase it. Okay? Those are those two probabilities. So I'm going to write some linear equations that should be satisfied by those two probabilities. So this is, given that we offer the subset S of products, this is the probability that the customer considers purchasing product J and purchases it. This is the probability that the customer considers purchasing product J during the course of her choice process and does not purchase it. So the sum is the probability that a customer considers purchasing product J during the course of her choice process. For a customer to consider purchasing product J, he should either come in with the intention of purchasing product J, or should consider purchasing some product I, not purchase it, and transition from product I to product J over all possible products. Okay? So this is kind of like a balanced equations that should be satisfied by these PJ of S and RJ of S probabilities. And there's also some trivial conditions, namely, if you're not offering a certain product, the probability that a customer considers purchasing that product and purchases is 0. And if you're offering a certain product, the probability that a customer considers purchasing that product and does not purchase is 0. So that those are some boundary cases. So I have n of these PJSs and n of these RJSs. So I have 2n unknowns. I have n equations here for every j. I have n minus s equations here, and I have s equations here. I have 2n equations here, 2n equations, 2n unknowns. You can solve these things. That would give you the probability that a customer would consider different products in your choice model. And once you compute these probabilities, PGS is going to be the probability that a customer actually purchases product J when you offer the subset S of probability. So PGS is going to be the purchase probability of product J when you offer the subset S of probabilities. Okay? But the bottom line is we can solve a linear equation, set of linear equations to compute the purchase probabilities under the Markov chain choice model. So now let me formulate my assortment problem. Let's say Rj is the revenue of product J. So this is how much money we make if we sell 1 unit of product J. Then if I offer the subset S of products, this is the probability that the customer purchases product J. If he does so, we make a revenue of Rj at a raw product. So this is the expected revenue that we obtain when we offer the subset S of products. And my problem is to find a set of products to offer so that we maximize that expected revenue. So that's the assortment problem that I would like to solve. Okay? All right. And here's how we can solve this assortment problem. I'm going to let Vj be the optimally expected revenue from a customer that comes in with the intentional purchasing product J. Okay? Vj is the optimally expected revenue from a customer that comes in with the intentional purchasing product J. So I'm going to write an equation that should be satisfied by Vj. This is the optimally expected revenue from a customer that comes in with the intentional purchasing product J. If I offer product J, then I make a revenue of Rj from that customer. It's the end of the game. If you do not offer product J, then the customer is going to transition from product J to product I with that transition probability. And from that point on, he's going to be a customer that arrived with the intentional purchasing product I, and this is the optimal expected revenue that I make from that customer only. Okay? And if this side is larger than that, it's optimal to offer product J. If this side is larger than that, it's optimal not to offer product J. So then these VJs, the optimal expected revenue from a customer that comes in to purchase product J, is going to satisfy that system of equations. And once you compute those VJs that satisfy that system of equations, once you compute these VJs that satisfy that system of equations, again, if this side is greater than that, it's optimal to offer product J. If this side is greater than that, it's optimal not to offer product J. So then this is going to be the optimal assortment. Any product where this side is greater than that should be offered, the other should not be offered. That is the optimal assortment. Okay? So then, since also Vj is the optimally expected revenue from a customer that comes in to purchase product J, multiply that by the probability that I actually see a customer that arrives with the intentional purchasing product J at overall products, this is going to be the optimally expected revenue in my assortment optimization problem. Okay? So then the only question is that how do I compute the VJs that satisfy the system of equalities on the top? How do I compute the VJs that satisfy the system of equalities on the top? I'm going to solve a linear program to do that. Here's what my linear program, I'm still getting used to that. Here's the linear program that I'm going to solve to compute the VJs that satisfy that system on the top. So I'm going to take these VJs and put some positive weights on them. And in the constraints, I'm going to say Vj is greater than this, and I'm also going to say Vj is greater than that. Okay? Since in the objective function I'm minimizing the sum of the VJs, I'm trying to make all the VJs as small as possible. At the optimal solution, Vjs is going to get stuck at the maximum of these two. So at the optimal solution, this LP, Vj is going to be equal to the maximum of one of these two terms. Okay? So as I solve this linear program, it's going to give me the Vjs that satisfies the equations that's written on the top. So the bottom line is, I can solve this linear program that's at the bottom to compute the Vjs that satisfies this system. Once I compute the Vjs that satisfy the system, if this side is greater than that side, I offer product J. If this side is greater than that side, I do not offer product J. That is the solution to the assortment problem. Okay? And since Vj is the optimal expected revenue from a customer that comes into purchase product J, and this is the probability that I see a customer that comes into purchase product J, the optimal objective value of this linear program is also going to be the optimal expected revenue in my assortment problem. Okay? All right. So then, let me show you one structural result for this assortment optimization problem, because that structural result is going to be useful later on in the talk. And that structural result I want to show you is the following. It turns out in this assortment problem, if the revenue of each product is increased by the same constant, then the optimal assortment to show to the customers becomes a larger assortment. Okay? Why am I showing this result? Because it'll be useful in the talk later on. Okay? So the result is, if I increase all the revenues of the products by the same constant, the optimal assortment will be a larger assortment. And that comes from a very simple argument, which I'm going to show you. Here I'm increasing the revenues of all products by the same constant, delta. Here is my assortment optimization problem. Let's say S delta is the optimal assortment when the revenues of all products are increased by the amount delta. Okay? How do I compute the optimal assortment? Well, in order to do that, let's say Vj delta is the optimal expected revenue from a customer that is interested in product J after I increase the revenues of all products by delta. We know that those Vj deltas are going to satisfy the system. And once I compute these Vj deltas, if this is greater than that, it's optimal to offer product J. If this is greater than that, it's optimal not to offer product J. So the optimal assortment when revenues of all products are increased by delta is characterized by this. Okay? What we want to show is, when I increase all of the products' revenues by delta, the optimal assortment is going to be larger when compared with the case when I do not increase revenues by delta. That's all I want to show. Okay? And again, that's going to be useful later on in the talk. Then that comes from a very simple computation. Here's how that computation goes. This is the optimal expected revenue from a customer that comes into purchase product J when the revenues of all products are increased by delta. That is, of course, going to be greater when compared with the case when the revenues are not increased at all. Okay? So that's trivial. On the other hand, if you increase the revenues of all products by delta, the expected revenue that you can make from a customer can at most increase by delta, because if the customer is making a purchase with probability 1, then that's when the revenue is going to increase by delta, and that's the best thing happen. So then that gives me this inequality that says when you increase the revenues of all products by delta, the optimal expected revenue from a customer can increase no more than delta when you do not increase the revenues. Okay, so that's coming from, again, an intuitive reasoning. So let me get the result that I want. This is the optimal assortment when I increase all products by delta. If this is greater than that, offer. If this is greater than that, then do not offer. So that's the characterization of the optimal assortment when I increase all product revenues by delta. Okay. Let me replace this term by something larger. Namely, we know that this is larger than that. So let me replace this term by something larger. Let me replace this term by something larger. So the right-hand side of this inequality got to be something larger. As a result, this set is going to shrink. So this set became smaller. There's that. Okay. What else? Let me distribute this thing over that. I distribute this one over that. Let me distribute this one over that. The total transition probability out of product J is going to be something less than 1, because there is some leakage to the no purchase option as well. So that this times that added over all I is something less than delta. If I replace that by delta, again, I replace the right-hand side by something even larger. This set shrank, I got something smaller. If you cancel the deltas, that's what I obtain. And this is exactly the optimal assortment when I do not increase the revenues of the products at all. Okay, so this one immediately shows that if you increase all product revenues by delta, your assortment is going to be greater when compared with the case you do not increase the product revenues. And again, this will be useful when we deal with structural properties later on. Okay, this is the assortment problem. This is all I want to say about the assortment problem. Let me now go to the revenue management problem over a flight network. So here's how that problem is going to go. So we're going to be looking at the network of flight legs that is being operated by a particular airline on a particular departure day. Okay, let's say that's my departure day, and on that departure day, I got all these flights that are being operated over all of these flight legs. And the airline is operating tickets for different itineraries that go from different origins to different destinations through different connecting flight legs. And over time, the airline is trying to decide which itineraries are available for purchase, which itineraries are closed. And the customers are going to come in, and they're going to look at what itineraries are available, and they're going to make a choice among these itineraries. And their choice is going to be according to this Markov chain choice model again. And the goal of the airline is to figure out which itineraries to make available over time to maximize total expected revenue. Okay, so this is the revenue management problem in a nutshell. You can try to formulate this thing as a dynamic program, which ends up being a huge dynamic program. So what people do in practice is they formulate a simple, crude, deterministic linear programming approximation to that problem. And that's what we're going to look at, and we're going to see what kind of reductions we can get in that linear program, this crude, deterministic linear programming approximations, when customers are choosing according to the Markov chain choice model. Let me try to formulate that linear program. So L is going to be the set of flight legs in the airline network. N is going to be the set of itineraries that could be offered by the airline. So the problem takes place over a finite selling horizon. This is the departure time of the flight legs. And let's say that's when the booking starts. Let's say 6 months in advance of the departure date, the bookings start. And I'm going to take that finite selling horizon and chop it into little time periods. And those time periods are going to be small enough that there's going to be one customer arrival in each time period. Okay? That's kind of like a standard modeling trick in revenue management. So then let's say Ci is the capacity on flight leg I. AIG is going to take value 1 if itinerary J uses flight leg I, otherwise AIG is going to take value 0. So these AIJs are telling me which itineraries are using which flight legs. AIJ equals 1 if itinerary J is using the I flight leg. RJ is the fare for itinerary J, how much money we make if we sell one ticket for itinerary J. And PJ of PJS is the probability that a customer purchases itinerary J, given that the airline is offering the subset S of itinerary. So those are the choice probabilities, and again, we're going to assume that they are governed by the Markov chain choice model. So then here's that crude deterministic linear programming approximation to the problem. The decision variable over here is HS, and that is the number of time periods during which we offer the subset S of itineraries to our customers. So that's my decision variable. HS is the number of time periods during which I offer the subset S of itineraries. But in the objective function, during a time period that we offer subset S of itineraries, this is the probability that a customer purchases itinerary J. And if you purchase itinerary J, this is the revenue that we make. And overall itineraries, this is the expected revenue that we obtain during a time period that we offer the subset S of itineraries. Multiply that by a number of time periods during which you offer the subset S at overall subsets. This is the total expected revenue over the whole selling horizon, which I'm trying to maximize. In the constraints, this is a capacity constraint. Again, during a time period that we offer the subset S of itineraries, this is the problem that we sell a ticket for itinerary J. And if we sell a ticket for itinerary J, and if itinerary J uses I flight leg, if AIJ equals 1, those sales are going to consume capacities on the I flight. Okay? If you add over all itineraries, this is the total expected capacity consumption on the I flight leg during a time period that we offer the subset S of itineraries. Multiply that by the number of time periods that we actually offer subset S of itineraries, add over all subsets. This is the total expected capacity consumption on the I flight leg. The constraint says the total expected capacity consumption on the I flight leg should be no larger than the capacity on the I flight leg. And this last one says the total number of time periods during which you offer a subset has to be equal to the number of time periods in the selling horizon. T is the number of time periods in the selling horizon. So it says at each time period you have to be offering a subset. Okay? All right. So,
yes, so does it matter in this sort of problem? You set it up like you need to decide of this HOS ahead of time, as opposed to sort of making a decision what you offer now and then.
The correct thing to do is what you're offering.
But it does make a difference.
It does make a difference,
Okay.
sure. Yeah, it does make a difference. The correct thing to do is what you're doing, but I cannot do it. Yeah, nobody can do that to solve that, and they don't solve it as a control problem. They just blast it out as a deterministic approximation. Yes.
May I ask? So is S the number of consecutive time periods?
In this formulation, it doesn't matter because you're only looking at the aggregate capacity consumption and the aggregate revenue. So this thing does not have any notion of order in its mind. So again, it's simple deterministic approximation. Yeah. Okay. All right. So this is a linear program, but the number of constraints is not too bad. But the number of decision variables is huge. You got one decision variable for every subset of itineraries. If you have n itineraries, there's 2 to the n decision variables here. So people usually solve these kinds of linear programs by using column generation. Okay, so that's what they do. Okay. So what we're going to do is, it turns out this linear program collapses to something very, very compact if the choices of the customers are according to the Markov chain choice model. In particular, we're going to show that this linear program that has 2 to the n decision variables can be collapsed to a equivalent linear program that has 2 times n decision variables when the choices of the customers are coming from the Markov chain choice model. Okay? So here's what we're going to do. Here's the original problem that we formulated that has 2 to the n decision variables. We're going to show that this linear program collapses into an equivalent one that has only 2 times n decision variables. And that linear program is this one. Let me try to give you some intuition about that collapse, reduced linear program. The decision variables in this linear program are xj and yj. Interpret xj as the total expected number of customers that visit itinerary j during the course of their choice process and actually purchase itinerary j. Okay? And interpret yj as the total expected number of customers that visit product J or that visit itinerary J during the course of their choice process and do not purchase itinerary J. Okay? So in the objective function of this reduced linear program, these are the number of customers that visit and purchase itinerary J. From each one of these guys, I obtain a revenue of Rj, add over all itineraries, so this is the expected revenue that I'm trying to maximize. Okay? In the constraint, again, these are the total expected number of customers that visit and purchase itinerary J. And if itinerary J uses I product, if IJ equals 1, those sales are consuming capacities on the I flight leg. So this is the total capacity consumption on the I flight leg due to my sales for itinerary J. Add over all itineraries, this is the total capacity consumption on the I flight leg. Should not exceed the capacity on the I flight leg. And the last one is saying something about the choice process of the customers. This is the total expected number of customers that consider and purchase itinerary J. These are the total expected number of customers that consider purchasing itinerary J during their choice process and does not purchase product J. So the sum is the total expected number of customers that consider purchasing itinerary J. For a customer to consider purchasing itinerary J, she could be coming in with the intention of purchasing itinerary J, or she could be interested, she could consider purchasing itinerary K, not purchase itinerary K, and then transition from itinerary K to some other itinerary J. Okay, this is kind of like a balanced equation. And again, it turns out these 2 linear programs precisely have the same optimal objective value, and it turns out you can go from the optimal solution to one problem to the optimal solution to the other problem. They're completely sort of equivalent to each other. And indeed, I'm going to again spend another 5 minutes to show that this thing can be reduced into that one. Here's how we're going to do it. Here's the original LP that we want to reduce, the large LP that we want to reduce. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write the dual of this linear program. Associated this dual variable mu I and a sigma with these constraints. Then in the objective function, I'm minimizing Ci times mu I added over all I plus T times sigma. and this is the dual constraint associated with the decision variable hs. So I have one of these constraints for every subset S. So this is just dual of the original deterministic linear program. Okay? So then I'm going to clean up this dual little bit. Pjs is multiplied by rj over here. Pjs is multiplied by sum over aij times mu I over here. Okay? So I'm going to put all of these things to the right. As a result, Pjs is multiplying rj, and Pjs is multiplying sum over aij mu I. So I just should pull the Pjs term to the other side. Then on the left-hand side, we have only sigma left. Okay? I keep that sigma over. So this is just a cleaned up version of the dual. Okay? So then this dual constraint needs to hold for every subset S. And in my objective function, I'm minimizing C times mu plus a sigma. So I'm trying to make sigma as small as possible. So then the optimal solution, sigma is going to get stuck at the largest one of these values over every subset S. Okay, so I'm trying to make sigma as small as possible. So at the optimal solution, sigma is going to get stuck at the largest one of these values over every subset. So basically, sigma is going to be equal to the maximum of these values over every subset. So then let me replace sigma by its optimal value and drop that constraint from my problem altogether. So sigma is going to be equal to the largest one of those values over every subset S. I replace sigma by its optimal value and drop that constraint from my problem altogether. So then this argument shows that our original LP can be formulated as a min-max problem. That's where we stand. Okay? All right. So if you look at my max problem here, the objective value of this max problem is a function of my decision variables mu. Whatever value I pick for those mu's, the objective value of that max problem is going to be a function of those mu's. Let me denote the optimal value of this max problem as a function of mu's as g of mu. Yes? And g of mu, again, by definition, is the objective value of that maximization problem. Okay? Good. So let me look at the top panel now, and let me clean up that top panel a little bit more. Definition of g of mu. This is nothing more than an assortment optimization problem that we looked at the beginning of the talk. I'm trying to find an assortment of products to offer, a set of products to offer. This is the probability that a customer goes for product J when we offer the subset S of products. And when we sell a ticket, when we sell product J, this is how much money we make. So this is an assortment optimization problem that we looked at the beginning. We know that this assortment optimization problem can be solved as a linear program from the first part of the talk. And here's what that linear program looks like. Again, Vj is the optimal expected revenue from a customer that comes in to purchase product J. Vj is greater than the revenue of product J, and Vj is greater than let the customer transition to another product K and get the optimal expected revenue from that point on. And I put these positive weights, which are the probabilities of seeing those customers. This assortment problem can be solved as this minimization LP we saw at the beginning of the talk. Okay? So then, that g of mu can be obtained by solving a minimization linear program. So let me replace that g of mu by that minimization problem that I can use. So then my original linear program becomes a min linear program. In the outer min, I minimize over mu's. In the inner min, I minimize over v's. Since this is a min, instead of minimizing over mu's first and then minimizing over v's later, I can put all of these decision variables together and minimize over mu's and v's simultaneously. This is the problem that I end up. And if you take the dual of this problem, namely associate the decision variables xj's and yj's with these constraints, it gives you exactly the linear program that we started at the beginning. Okay? So this is sort of like a somewhat long-winded, let's say, algebraic proof that why that 2 to the n decision variables can be collapsed to only 2 times n decision variables. Okay? All right. So then let me show you some. Okay. So then, this is a reduced linear program. We have this linear program, 2 to the n decision variables. We reduce to a linear program with 2 times n decision variables. And again, it turns out that if you give me the optimal solution to this problem, I can recover the optimal solution to the original problem pretty easily as well. And there's that result. If you give me the optimal solution x star, y star to the reduced linear program, we can recover the optimal solution h star to the original linear program in n cubed time. So you can go back and recover the optimal solution to the original problem in a reasonably tractable fashion as well. So you can go between these problems without any difficulty. All right. So then here's some numbers. What we did here is the following. So we looked at different test problems. So here's a test problem that has 15 flights in the airline network, 500 itineraries. Here's a test problem that has 25 flights in the airline network and 250 itineraries. We have 16 different test problems. So now each one of these problem instances, we solved it 2 ways. One is we use the reduced linear program, the one with the 2 times n decision variables. just throw it to a linear programming solver, get the optimal solution. And by using our n-cubed algorithm, we recover the optimal solution to the original deterministic linear program, H star. So that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing that is solve the original deterministic linear program with 2 to the n decision variables directly by using column generation. Okay? And what we're looking at is the ratios of the runtimes between solving the problem using by column generation and using the reduced linear program to get the optimal solution, and use the n-cubed algorithm to recover the optimal solution to the original deterministic linear program. Okay? So those are the purple bars, and for larger test problems, you can speed up the runtimes by a factor of 6,000 or something like that. So we're talking about a few seconds to hours or days or something like that. Okay? And for smaller problems, you can again improve the runtimes by something like 500, 200, 1,000 or something like that. So you can get significant improvements. Also, column generation takes actually not too much time to get close to the optimal solution, but column generation can take a lot of time to close the less than a few percent of the optimality gap. So what we also tried is we ran column generation to get to 1% of the optimal, and we stop column generation at that point. And if you do that, again, those are the ratios of runtimes that we obtain, plotted by this orange line. And again, for larger test problems, even if you stop column generation with 1% optimality gap, you can still improve the runtime of column generation by factors on the order of 100. And over here, we're talking about factors on the order of 10, 50, 20, or something like that. So it gives you quite a bit of improvement in the runtimes. Okay, this is the network setting. Next, I'm going to go to the single leg revenue management problem. And the single leg revenue management problem looks something like this. So we're operating a single flight leg between a particular origin destination pair, JetBlue from Syracuse to New York. Okay? And on this flight leg, we're offering different fare classes: an expensive fully refundable, a partially refundable, and a less expensive non-refundable. So different fare classes. And over time, the airline is trying to figure out which set of fare classes to make available to its customers. And the customers that come in are looking at what fare classes are available, and they're making a choice among those available fare classes. And the decision problem for the airline is, over time, what fare classes do I make available so that I maximize the expected revenue I collect until the departure time of this flight leg. Okay? All right. So we're going to formulate this thing as a dynamic program and be able to try to say something interesting about the structure of the optimal policy that comes out of that dynamic program. So again, the problem takes place over a finite selling horizon. Let's say this is the departure time of the flight leg, and let's say this is 6 months in advance when the bookings for that flight leg starts. We're going to take that selling horizon, chop it into little time periods, and there's going to be one customer arrival in each time period. That's how we're going to model the customer arrivals. PG of S is going to be the choice probabilities, namely, given that we offer the subset S of fare classes, that's the probability that a customer purchases fare class J. And again, those choice probabilities are going to be governed by the Markov chain choice model. And let's say RJ is a fare of fare class J, so this is how much money we make if we sell one ticket for fare class J. Okay? Here's my dynamic program. I'm sitting at time period T. The remaining capacity on my flight leg is X, so that's a scalar, the remaining capacity on my single flight leg. I'm trying to figure out which subset S of fare classes to offer. If I offer the subset S of fare classes, this is the probability of selling a ticket for fare class J. If I do so, I collect the revenue of RJ, move to the next time period with one less unit of capacity. If I offer the subset S of fare classes, this is the probability that I don't sell anything. If I don't sell anything, I walk to the next time period with the same capacity. Okay, so this is my dynamic program. I'm going to clean this up a little bit. RJS is multiplying V of X minus 1. PJS is multiplying V of X minus 1. PJS is multiplying V of X. Put them all together. PJS is multiplying V of X minus 1, and PJS is multiplying V of X. And if you do so, there is also 1 times V of X. Keep that 1 times V of X over here. One more cleanup. I'm going to call this difference as delta V of X if you like. That's the first difference of my value function. So this is the dynamic program that I would like to stare at. Okay? All right.
So how does one take into account the thing that if you sell the more expensive fare, then you're not guaranteed that you will actually get it, the customer can change his mind. So this RJ already takes this.
I know, it's not a great model in the sense that what the airlines, as far as I know, what the airlines do is they put an overbooking pad. So X is not necessarily the exact capacity on the flight leg. So they allow themselves to overbook a little bit. That's how they do it. Okay. And again, they try to search X, but right now I'm assuming that the capacity. So the capacity that I'm using is not the physical capacity in a certain sense. Yeah. Okay, so this is the dynamic program that I want to look at, and if I'm sitting at time period T with the remaining capacity of X, this is the problem that I would like to solve in order to find the optimal set of fare classes to offer to my customers. Okay, so here's what you can say about this dynamic program. You can show that the first difference of the value function decreases in capacity. Okay, the first difference of the value function decreases as you have more capacity, which is basically saying that the marginal value of an additional unit of capacity becomes less if I have more capacity on hand. Okay, all right. Second thing you can say is the first difference of the value function decreases in time. As you get closer to the departure time, the first difference of the value function decreases, which says that if you give me an additional unit of capacity later in the selling horizon, the value that I can drive from that additional unit of capacity is going to be smaller. Okay? And these two results can actually be proven under not just the Markov chain choice model, under very, very general choice model. So these two things are, they've been all over the place for a long time. Okay? But these two results hold under the Markov chain choice model. So for the other two results, we need the properties of the Markov chain choice model. This one says the following. If you're sitting at a time period with more and more and more capacity on hand, then the optimal assortment of fare class to offer becomes a larger and larger assortment. Okay? So basically, if I'm sitting at a time period with more and more and more capacity on hand, I'm going to be saying, oh God, I got all this capacity that I have to liquidate, and the way to liquidate is to offer a larger assortment of fare classes. Okay? So this is a liquidation effect. If you have too much capacity, you want to liquidate faster. The way to liquidate faster is to offer a larger assortment. The other result that you can show is, if I get to the close, if I have a specific amount of capacity on hand, with that capacity I get closer to the departure time, then again the optimal assortment offer becomes larger. That's another liquidation effect. I have this much capacity, but I'm getting closer and closer to departure time. Oh my God, I'm running out of capacity, I got to liquidate, and the way to liquidate is to offer larger and larger assortments. Okay? If I get closer to the departure time with the same amount of capacity, the optimal assortment offer gets larger. I'm going to take 2 minutes to show this one. Namely, if I'm sitting at a time period with more and more capacity on hand, the optimal assortment offer becomes larger. And that's got an interesting implication in terms of how one would implement the optimal policy. Here's what we want to prove. Let's say I'm sitting at time period t with the remaining capacity of x. In order to find the optimal assortment offer, this is the problem that I need to solve. Okay? And let's say st of x is the optimal assortment offer when I'm sitting at time period t with the remaining capacity of x. And likewise, let's say I'm sitting at time period t with remaining capacity of x plus 1. This is the problem that I need to solve in order to find the optimal assortment. St of x plus 1 is the optimal assortment offer when I'm sitting at time period t with x plus 1 units of capacity. What I want to show is this assortment, when I have more capacity, the optimal assortment offer, this assortment is larger than that assortment. That's what I would like to show. Okay? Now it comes from a very simple argument. I'm going to take this problem and write this minus delta v of x plus 1 as minus delta v of x plus delta v of x minus delta v of x plus 1. So I added and subtracted delta v of x. Okay? So then, if we compare these two problems, both of them are assortment problems. In this assortment problem, the revenues of the products are this much. In this assortment problem, the revenues of the products are the same, that much, plus another term. And if you look at this term, we said that the first difference of the value functions are decreasing in capacity, so these differences are all positive. So when you compare these two assortment problems, the revenues of the products are this much. Over here, the revenues of the products are that much, plus a constant term added on the top of the revenue of each product. And at the very beginning of the talk, we showed that if you increase the revenues of all the products by the same constant amount, the optimal assortment becomes a larger assortment. As a result, the optimal solution to this problem is going to be a larger assortment than the optimal solution to this problem. So that's what you get. Okay? So that's that. So now this is sort of like a simple result, but it's got some interesting implication in terms of how one would implement the optimal policy. So let's say I'm sitting at a particular time period, and I'm thinking about what assortment of fare class to offer at that particular time period corresponding to different capacity levels. We've seen that as you have more capacity, you're going to offer a larger assortment. Okay? So let's say when I have the most capacity, I'm going to offer a full assortment of fare classes, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So when I have the largest capacity, I offer all of the fare classes out there. Okay? And what we've shown is as you have less and less and less and less capacity, you're going to offer smaller and smaller and smaller assortments. So let's say if I have 1 less unit of capacity, I still offer the full assortment. 1 less unit, I still offer the full assortment. 1 less unit, I stop offering fare class 4 down. Okay? Later down the road, you're going to drop 1 more. Later down the road, you're going to drop 1 more. Later down the road, you're going to drop 1 more. This is going to be the structure of the optimal assortments to offer at different fare class, at different capacity levels. Okay? So now what I can do, a cute way of thinking about this policy is the following. What I can do is, I can say the following. There is a threshold level for fare class 5. Threshold capacity level. If the remaining capacity is greater than the threshold level for fair class 5, then I'm going to keep on offering fair class 5. If the remaining capacity is less than the threshold level for fair class 5, then I stop offering fair class 5. And likewise, there is a threshold level for capacity for fair class 3. If the remaining capacity is less than that, I stop offering fair class 3. If the remaining capacity is greater than that, I keep on offering fair class 3. So then when you're implementing the optimal policy, you can associate threshold levels for each one of your fair classes. People call those protection levels. So you can associate threshold levels for each one of these fair classes. Then by comparing your remaining capacity with the threshold value for a particular fair class, you can decide whether an individual fair class should be offered or not. Okay? So this was somewhat surprising because the original problem is formulated in terms of what subsets of fair classes to offer, but when we're implementing the optimal policy, you can associate an individual threshold capacity value for each fair class. By comparing your remaining capacity with the individual threshold value for a particular fair class, you can individually decide whether each fair class should be offered or not. So it gives you some kind of simplification when you're trying to implement the optimal policy. Okay? All right. So that is the single revenue management over a single flight leg. Let me try to sort of then show you what we did for estimating the parameters of the Markov chain choice model. In order to estimate the parameters of this Markov chain choice model, we use that expectation maximization kind of idea. So then here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to show my interpretation of the expectation maximization algorithm in its most classical setup. And then I'm going to tell you how our expectation maximization idea sort of matches with the most classical setup of the expectation maximization algorithm. So that's what I'm going to show you. Okay? Well, let me try to explain my interpretation of the expectation maximization algorithm in its most classical setup, nothing to do with revenue management. Okay? All right. Let's imagine that somebody gives me some data, x1, x2, x3, ... x7. Those are my data. And I know that these data are coming from one of the two distributions, f and h. With some probability, alpha is coming from the first distribution. With some probability, 1 minus alpha is coming from the second distribution. And both of these distributions have some unknown parameters. F has the unknown parameters mu, h has the unknown parameter sigma. My goal is use these data to estimate the parameters mu and sigma of these two distributions, and also the mixing probability alpha. That's what I'm trying to do. Okay? So here's how the expectation maximization algorithm thinks. Let's imagine that in addition to the original data, someone tells me what distribution each data point came from. Did it come from this distribution or that? Did this one come from this distribution or that? Okay? Someone tells me, in addition to the original data, someone gives me these source data, I'm going to call y's, that are telling me which distribution each data point came from. Namely, y1 is going to take value 1. If x1 came from the first distribution, y1 is going to take value 0 if x1 came from the second distribution. y4 takes value 1 if x4 came from the first distribution, y4 takes value 0 if x4 came from the second distribution. So those are my source data, if you like, my label data. So then by using the source, original data and the source data, I can write a likelihood expression that I can maximize to estimate the parameters alpha, mu, and sigma. Here's that likelihood expression. If y1 equals 1, meaning my first data point is coming from the first distribution, then the likelihood of my first data point is probability of getting a data point from the first distribution times the likelihood according to the first distribution. If y1 equals 0, then the likelihood of the first data point is the likelihood of getting a data point from the second distribution times the likelihood of the first data point according to the second distribution. So this product is the likelihood of the first data point. And likewise, you could write down the likelihood of all the other data points. If somebody gives me the original data x and the label data, source data y's, this is the likelihood that I could maximize to estimate the parameters mu, sigma, and alpha. Okay? All right. Let me take the log of this likelihood so that it looks like something that I like. If you take the log likelihood, you're going to pick up a y times log f from each one of these guys, y times log f from each one of those guys. You're going to pick up 1 minus y times log h from each one of those guys, 1 minus y times log h from each one of those guys. These ones are going to give you y times log alphas, and these ones are going to give you 1 minus y times log alphas, and there's those log alphas. That's log likelihood function. Okay? And people like that log likelihood function because this portion only depends on mu, this portion only depends on sigma, that portion only depends on alpha. So if you want to maximize this log likelihood function over your parameters mu, sigma, and alpha, you can maximize each one of these parts separately. And if you can compute a maximum likelihood estimator of parameter mu for the distribution f, then you can maximize this thing easily. If you can compute a maximum likelihood estimator of sigma for the distribution h, then you can maximize this portion easily. And log 1 minus alpha plus log alpha is concave in alpha, maximizing the last part is also easy. So this is an easy log likelihood to maximize, assuming that f and h has reasonably easy maximum likelihood estimators. So that's one important piece for the EM algorithm. The second important piece for the EM algorithm is the following. We can compute the expected value of the source data given the original data without too much difficulty. Here is the expected value of my label data given the original source data. This takes value 1 or 0, so this expectation is just the probability that this thing is going to take value 1. And the probability that this thing takes value 1 given my original data can be computed as the probability that ith data point comes from the first distribution and I observe the data point xi divided by the probability that I observe the data point xi. So that's the probability that I get a data point from the first distribution and I observe the data point xi divided by the probability that I observe the data point xi. The data point xi could be coming from the first distribution and the second distribution. Okay, so that expectation is also easy to compute. And my notation over here is emphasizing that this probability depends on our parameters alpha and mu. Okay, so that's why I have the subscripts mu, sigma, and alpha there. Okay, so I'm putting it all together. Here is how the expectation maximization algorithm works. And I'm going to get to revenue management in very, very soon. Here's how the expectation maximization idea works. We're given the original data point, and that's all we know. We're given the original data point. We initialize our estimates of the parameters mu, sigma, and alpha, and we set the iteration counter t to 1. Okay? And each iteration of the algorithm, we do two things. Each iteration of the expectation maximization algorithm does two things. First, given the original data point, we computed the expected value of the source data under the assumption that our current estimates of the parameters are correct. Okay? I compute the expected value of the source data given the original data under the assumption that our estimates of the parameters are correct. This is easy to do. It's just this expression here. You just use the current estimates of your parameters. So now, once I compute the expected value of the source data, this gives me some source data to use in my likelihood function. Assuming that this expected source data is my source data, I construct this log likelihood function, which uses my original data and the expected source data that I just computed. I maximize this log likelihood function over my parameters to get new estimates of my parameters, and I keep on iterating. Okay? So then there are two things that we do in each step. The first step is called the expectation step, where we compute the expected value of the source data given the original data and under the assumption that our parameter estimates are correct. The expected value of the source data gives me some source data to use in my log likelihood function. In the next step, I assume that expected source data is the correct source data. I construct this log likelihood function, maximize it over the parameters to get new estimates of the parameters. I keep on iterating. Okay?
Can't one instead do sort of MLE with a fixed y, and then what you get maximize over y?
What you get maximize over?
So you get basically you y's parameters taken 0 and 1. Each one takes value 0 and 1, and you just do MLE with those parameters.
I guess you could do that, but I don't know how efficient this would be. This thing becomes really, really efficient. Yeah, you could do that. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, you could do that. From our perspective, each one of these steps are going to be easy close form expressions. That's why I like it. Because, again, as we said, this thing separates very easily if you don't treat y's as decision variables as well in your log likelihood function. That's what I like this one. Yeah. Okay. So then in order to apply this EM kind of an idea, there's, I think, 3 important things that needs to work out. One is your original data should be coming from multiple possible sources. 2 is, if you give me the original data and the source data, you should be able to compute the maximum likelihood estimators of the parameters without too much difficulty. And the third is, given the original data, we should be able to compute the expected value of the source data without too much difficulty. So if these 3 steps are satisfied, then you can actually use this kind of an EM framework to estimate the unknown parameters of your distributions and the mixing distribution. Okay, good. Okay, so then let me try to sort of tell you how these kinds of ideas are useful when we're trying to estimate the parameters of our Markov chain choice model. So we focused on a specialized version of the Markov chain choice model, where the customer transitions only a finite number of times, and after a finite number of transitions, if the customer has still not reached an available product or no purchase option, he's going to say, I'm tired of it, I'm going to leave the store. Okay, so that's the choice model. We restricted the choice model. And we actually took the number of transitions to be 3. Okay, we said if the customer transitions 3 times, if by then she still has not reached an available product or no purchase option, we're going to assume that the customer is going to quit the game and leave without purchasing anything. So now I sort of tweak my Markov chain choice model a little bit, but I'm going to estimate the parameters of that tweaked Markov chain choice model. Okay. So now what is the data I'm provided? The data I'm provided is what products the customers has seen and what they purchased. The first customer has seen these products and he purchased this one. The second customer has seen these products and he purchased this one. The third customer has seen these products and he decided to purchase nothing. The fourth customer has seen these products and he purchased them. This is the original data that I have available for my estimation procedure. Okay, that's what I have. And the parameters that I want to estimate is lambdas, the probability that a customer comes in to purchase a certain product, and rhos, the transition probabilities between the different products. That's what I'm trying to estimate. Okay? So in order to use this expectation maximization framework, I need to think about my source data, my label data, what other information could be made available to me so that my life would be easier. And we assume that as the source data, let's imagine that somebody told us not only what a customer purchased, but also they told us the exact path the customer followed in order to purchase a certain product. For example, in addition to my original data, I'm being told that this customer purchased this one, but also that customer came in to purchase this one, and then transitioned from here to there to there, and then there to there, and purchased that one. So now I'm assuming that additional source data is available, and in that source data I'm told exactly what path each customer followed to make their final choices. Okay, good. So now, if you make this source data available to me, what does it imply from the implementability of the expectation maximization algorithm? First one says the original data should be coming from multiple sources. Okay, the original data says the customer purchased this one, and for the customer to purchase this one, he could arrive at this product through different paths, and each one of these different paths is a different source for this customer. Okay, and since the customer is stopping after 3 different jumps, there's only n³ different paths that could lead to this product. Okay, so this data could be coming from n³ different sources. That's my source. Second one, given the original data and the source data, we can easily compute the maximum likelihood estimators of the unknown parameters, for our case lambda and rho. If you give me the original data and the source data, then the likelihood function is really, really easy. For example, the likelihood of this happening is lambda 2 times rho 2, 4 times rho 4, 2 times rho 3, 5. So the likelihoods of all of these data points becomes a product of bunch of lambdas and rhos. Likelihood of the whole sample becomes a product of bunch of lambdas and rhos. Log likelihood is going to separate really easily. So maximizing the log likelihood is going to be very, very easy if I know the path data that's followed by my customer. So that's also not bad. Finally, given the original data, we should be able to compute the expected source data without too much difficulty. The question that you ask is, given that the customer has purchased this product among all of these things, what is the probability that he followed this path? That is a simple computation to make because there is only n³ paths the customer could have followed. By enumerating over all of these n³ paths, you can actually compute the probability that he's going to follow exactly that path. So that's also doable. Okay? So then basically the important features of the EM algorithm is satisfied when the source data is the exact path data that the customer has followed. So then we use the EM algorithm to estimate the parameters of our Markov chain choice model. And I'm not going to write the exact algorithm because it becomes pretty messy to write. Okay. Now let me just show you some numbers.
When would you actually have the source data?
You do not have the source data.
Is it not possible to have it?
I mean,
Orbits keeps track of keystrokes or something?
you could keep track of keystrokes, but again, my goal in building this model and using this model is not really to say that this is how the customers are making their choices. So I don't really believe or think that customers jump from product according to a Markov chain. All I want is tell me what has been purchased out of what, and I want to calibrate my Markov chain to sort of fit to the choice process that I observe in the field. So, but if you believe that this is exactly how the customers are making their choices, maybe you can get the source data from somewhere.
But in websites like Amazon.com, when you click the product, they keep the track actually. Once you log in, they can keep the track of which products you clicked and then finally which product you bought.
Well, okay, so let me sort of like say this. Okay, so let's think about this. But this one also says that the customers can transition into the products that are not available, right? In Amazon, you cannot transition into a product that is not available. Or it just doesn't happen.
You can actually.
Well, but most of the time, whatever you see is usually available. So, for example, in an airline, we're thinking about what fare class are available. The airline doesn't tell you, this fare class was available, but it's not available to you. You cannot transition into that fare class, right? So, in many settings, what's not available is not even visible to you for you to click on.
Well, if I go from Orbitz to Expedia, it might be that.
Okay, just for you, source data is available.
Okay.
But in
I
many
got it.
setting, what you see is what the customer saw and what they purchased. And I want to do my estimation in that setting. Yeah, I mean, fair enough. Shane, you were saying something.
You said what I was going to say.
Okay, great. So now let me show you some numbers. Let me see. Yeah, I can show you some numbers. So what we did was, and I say we actually, but the first part of the talk done by Jake and the second part of the talk done by Serdar. So I'm going to say we, but he did. Okay, what we did is, we generated a bunch of data from a pretty complex choice model. And I'm going to tell you what that complex choice model is. It's not the Markov chain choice model, okay? We generated some data from a complex choice model. And in this data, what we have is, for each customer, we offered a random assortment of products. And then among that random assortment of products, we sampled the choice of the customers according to that complex choice model. And that was our data, okay? Randomly generated according to a complex choice model. And the complex choice model was something like this. We have different customer types, and each customer type comes in with a ranking of the products in its mind. Here are the customer types that says, I like product 3 better than 4, product 4 better than 2, product 2 better than no purchase option. I'd rather not buy anything than buy product 1. Okay? We have different customer types. Each one of them has a different ordering of products in their minds. And when a customer of a particular type comes in, he looks at what products are available and buys the highest ranking available product in his mind. So that's the choice model. So then the choice model is characterized by a whole bunch of permutations and probability of seeing a customer that belongs to a different customer type. So that's the complex choice model that we use. Again, by using that complex choice model, we offered a whole bunch of random assortments to our customers and sampled what they would have purchased. So we generate a whole bunch of data. We split that data into two parts, training data and the testing data. By using the training data and our EM algorithm, we fitted the Markov chain choice model. And then by using the fitted Markov chain choice model, we computed the likelihood of the testing data. Okay, we want to make sure that we obtain large likelihoods on the testing data. That was the idea that we followed. Just as a benchmark, we also fitted a very simplistic choice model by using our training data. That simplistic choice model is the multinomial logit model. We also computed the likelihoods that we get in the testing data set by using the fitted multinomial logit model. Hopefully we're going to do better than the multinomial logit choice model. So here are the results. On the x-axis, we're looking at different training data. So here I'm using 500 data points to train my Markov chain choice model. Here I'm using 5,000 data points to train my Markov chain choice model. Okay? And the purple line is showing us the likelihoods that we obtain in the testing data when I use the Markov chain choice model trained in a particular training data. For example, if I use this training data to train my Markov chain choice model, this is the likelihood that I obtain in my testing data set. Okay? And the same thing, this yellow line does the same thing for the multinomial logit choice model. Okay? All right. So then the first and obvious observation, if you use more data to train your Markov chain choice model, the likelihoods in the testing data becomes better. So you can explain the testing data better by using more data points in your training data. But the more interesting observation is, if you use very few data points to train your Markov chain choice model, your likelihoods are worse than the multinomial logit model. Okay? But if you have more and more data available, our likelihoods get better and better, and we eventually do a better job than the multinomial logit model. The Markov chain choice model is estimating a transition matrix. So it's, if you've got n products, you're estimating n squared parameters. And this is a problem where we have 10 products, so we're estimating 100 different parameters. Okay? Whereas in the multinomial logit model, if you have n products, there's only n parameters, so that one is estimating only 10 parameters. So if you have too few data, multinomial logit model is beating us. Okay? So that was the sort of like the outcome that came out of these pictures. So now to wrap up, in terms of sort of like interesting work that remains in this area, one thing that we thought really hard, and we still don't know the answer, is how can we impose constraints on the offered assortment? So, we want to say things like, find the optimal assortment of products to offer, but make sure you do not offer more than 5 products out there. You could have a real estate available on your web page or something like that. That problem we still do not know how to solve. Well, actually, it's an NPR problem, but we still don't have a good algorithm to solve that problem. And the others are, again, as Jenna sort of mentioned, there may be a more direct way of estimating the parameters. So YEM algorithm is a pretty inefficient way of maximizing your likelihoods. Serdar and I recently started thinking about how we can maximize the likelihood in a more direct fashion without using YEM algorithm. And there's actually needs to be some more numerical work that actually tests this Markov chain model in different settings. It gives you some flexibility. It gives you n squared parameters, but it's not clear its modeling flexibility is rich enough to do a better job than the multinomial logit model. So throughout the talk, I did not show you any references. Let me show you a few references. This Markov chain choice model goes back to a recent paper by a bunch of colleagues from Columbia, so we did not invent the Markov chain choice model. But the optimization results and the estimation results for the Markov chain choice model are due to Jake and Serdar, but the description of the choice model goes to another paper. And again, in all 2000s, people have been spending a lot of time on solving various revenue management problems under different kinds of choice models, and those are sort of like the early papers that are sort of looking at various revenue management problems under different kinds of choice models. And they're the early papers, they're all after 2000, but that's sort of what's sort of interesting and sexy nowadays in revenue management. Okay, that's where I'm going to stop. Thank you.
Your comparison was based on likelihoods. Have you also tried comparisons based on sort of revenues?
We did not do revenues. So we thought about it, but we did not do it. We should, but we did not. Yeah.
Fine. Second question then. Is it possible to do something, get some partial results in a situation where you have a mixture of Markov chains? Because that's kind of the model that you sort of showed as your complicated one.
Yeah, and the deterministic Markov chain, yeah, that's a deterministic Markov chain in a sense, right? Because people follow the same order. I suspect that will be quite hard. The reason I suspect it will be quite hard is the following. I have a legitimate reason to suspect it will be quite hard. You can show that single multinomial logic model is a special class of the Markov chain choice model. You can actually show that I can calibrate the Markov chain choice model to exactly replicate the choice probabilities under the multinomial logic model. But I also know that a solvent optimization problem under a mixture of multinomial logic model is hard. That's known. So then a mixture of Markov chain models is going to be harder than that. So, but you know, we can do approximations under a mixture of multinomial logic models, so we can think about approximations under a mixture of Markov chains. But exact solvability is not going to happen.
Any other questions? All right, let's thank Huseyin once again.